Do you love or hate tax time? Good morning, taste buds. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. I guess that all depends on if you're getting a refund or not. No matter how you feel about tax time, I've got recipes from our past that may make you feel better, at least food-wise, here today on Filet Taste.
How fun is that?
Welcome all to Filet Taste. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein here in the Goya kitchen at J World in Coconut Creek. Well, once again, it's tax time, the time of year that you need to settle up with your good old Uncle Sam. You may be getting a refund, or if your accountant figured out wrong, you'll have to pay. Either way, today I thought it would be fun to give you a couple of recipes from the past to spend your refund on. And if that's not the case, a recipe if you're trying to be, let's just say, frugal. So let's get cooking. My first recipe is for your tax refund. I made this first recipe for you in May of 2019. Here's a refund-worthy dish. It's filet mignon topped with a poached egg and a béarnaise sauce. Rather decadent. Who doesn't love a filet mignon? And I, as a mom, adore them. So I have decided, because Mother's Day is usually a breakfast treat, to give you a filet mignon with a poached egg and béarnaise sauce. So I'm already searing a filet mignon. I'm gonna cook it to my liking, which is usually rare, and I really wanted to teach you also how to cook the perfect egg. So I have some water in a pot, and you really need a lot of water to poach eggs, more than you think you do. But don't choose anything too high, because if a pot is too high, it's hard to get your hands in there. So this size is perfect because it gives me a lot of room to kind of dip in. This is white vinegar, very important to poaching eggs. Now don't put too much in there, and you don't want the water to keep reducing while the vinegar is there, or your egg will turn out vinegary, which is not a good thing. The vinegar, however, does help the egg stay together, and it gets rid of the white part of the egg that we don't normally eat. Not that it's a bad thing, it's not as perfect looking. So a little bit of vinegar, a nice pinch of salt, and then go ahead and lower your heat to a simmer. Now that our water is ready and perfect, you have to crack eggs ahead of time. Very, very important part of this is to crack your eggs ahead. If you crack into the water, I will bet you that about 1 in 3 will break on you. So really important part. Another one is a timer. Number 3, pretend that this is a whirlpool, okay? Go in the motion of a whirlpool, start moving your water around, and as it keeps on moving, add your egg, and then add your other egg. This way, the eggs will not stick to the bottom. Set a timer for 2.5 minutes. You see how the white part is starting to separate into the part that will stick to our egg and the part that will not. So if you were making this ahead of time, I would tell you to have a little ice water here. And all you have to do is, once they're ready, you put them in ice water. Don't throw away that hot water, because once your guests are ready to eat, you just dunk them back in the hot water for a good 20 seconds, and they'll be hot enough to eat again. So to make béarnaise, I think béarnaise is probably my favorite dipping sauce for every fry and steak out there on the planet. In here, I've actually made my own tarragon vinegar, which, by the way, can get very expensive if you buy it, but you can make it by infusing a little bit of tarragon, fresh tarragon, which looks like this, in vinegar, champagne vinegar, to be exact. This also has a little bit of shallot for flavor. I just warmed it through, pulled it off, and that's about it. Let it sit and kind of macerate so it's got good flavor. I'll put about a tablespoon of that into my little cup that I'll be blending with. Then to that, I'm gonna add the tiniest, probably 1/4 teaspoon of Dijon mustard and 2 egg yolks. Okay, we also need a little tiny bit of water for that. So a little bit of water, just like a teaspoon of water. And lastly, you need some melted butter, which you can do clarified butter, or you can do just regular melted butter, whatever you've got. I happen to have clarified butter. I know a lot of people don't usually have it. but I happen to have it here. But like I said, you can use clarified or regular melted butter. It's up to you. Let's start blending. Good if you have a stick blender, by the way. I'll start adding my butter very slowly to emulsify my butter sauce. My eggs are ready. Okay, I'm going to take a break for 2 seconds. Perforated spoon. Pull out these gorgeous, oh, they're perfect. All right, so you see all this excess? We don't eat that part. And that is what happens when you put vinegar in water, is you can easily remove that. Second one, same thing. You take all this extra excess white egg off. And there you have beautiful, soft poached eggs. Our steak is about almost at mid-rare. Let's keep emulsifying our sauce. Now, if I were to add this butter all in at once, it would break, so we don't want that to happen. Go ahead and season it with salt. Now, if you wanted to, you could add a little cayenne pepper for heat. But I decided it would be a little more fun to have some chili threads, which I brought with me today. My steak is ready. I'm going to let it sit on a cutting board before I put it on a plate to let it rest. In case any of the blood comes out, you don't want that to happen on your pretty plate. I have some fun little things to make this even better. I have some crispy little croutons that I thought would be a great texture for the Benedict. Since I'm not really making true Benedict, I'm kind of putting all the ingredients of a Benedict together. So I'm going to have a couple of pieces of crispy, thin sliced baguette that I toasted, so they're really crunchy on the bottom. I'm going to chop a little bit of fresh parsley for the top, just a little bit. And we have our sauce. I told you about the chili threads. Check these out. These are kind of cool. You can get these at a lot of gourmet markets, and you can also get it online. These are actual chili threads, and they have a little tiny bit of piquant to them, just a tiny bit of heat, but not much. So let's put everything together. Filet mignon. Let's crush it down. Ready? Such a good sound. By the way, this beautiful filet mignon comes from Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market. They are the best, and this filet is just gorgeous. The poached egg goes right on top. Our béarnaise. Right over that. Some chili threads. I'm getting a little fancy today, y'all. Sorry, I just had to for Mom's Day. Some crunchy bits over that for texture. A little bit of parsley, and voila, we have a filet mignon Benedict my way. So that's my first recipe to spend your tax refund on. Stay where you are because there are more to come, including a recipe perfect if you're not getting a refund. Come right back.
Chef Michelle has more from the Goya kitchen at J.A. World. SoFlo Taste is back in 2.
Coming up right after SoFlo Taste, it's SoFlo Home Project with me, Elena Capra, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to SoFlo Taste and my look back at tax tip recipes. I'm here at J World in Coconut Creek, a place for kids. J World is committed to hands-on experimental learning where students can apply that learning in real-world situations. For more information, visit jasouthflorida.org or call 954-979-7100. Now back to my tasty tax tips. This is another recipe if you're getting money back. It's from my Valentine's Day menu of 2021, and it's fancy. Oysters on the half shell with champagne mignonette. Real fancy. To start off, I can't think of anything sexier than oysters. These are actually called Island Creek oysters. This is my favorite oyster in the whole world. Because they're briny, they're very East Coast in style, salty and delicious, and they have a really kind of a deep shell to them, which I love, which makes a bit of a bigger oyster body. So I'm going to go ahead and open an oyster, but you can go anywhere that has reputably good oysters and have them shuck them for you. It's not a hard thing, but if you're going to do it, I would buy glove protectors for shucking oysters. That might be a good idea for you. So this is an oyster knife, and I'm going to go nice and slow. You basically just slide in using a small amount of pressure, and then all of a sudden you'll see the shells start to move and jiggle a little bit, and that's when you know you've got it. And then you slide around the outside so as not to hurt the inside body of the oyster. And then slowly start working your way out of it. And there you have it, one juicy oyster. And I'll put that on a bed of some crushed ice. You can bake them Rockefeller, you can top them with all kinds of stuff, or simply you can make one of my favorite toppings for an oyster, which is a mignonette. There's always the cocktail sauces, which are really easy, and you can make that, of course, as well. But a mignonette is eloquent, and it gives the true flavor of the oyster with a little bit of added flavor. So I'm actually making, didn't know that had that much behind it. I'm making a champagne mignonette for you. Now, the basic ingredients of mignonette are shallots, which are diced really small. Here, check this out. That's the most important part. Cut your shallots really tiny. That's called a brunoise cut, which is 1/8 of an inch. You could probably measure this with a ruler, and it would come out exactly that. Then you take some toasted and then crushed peppercorns, black peppercorns. They are not ground to a fine powder. They are crushed. So if you see how big they are, you take the back of a saute pan, lay them flat on a cutting board, and take that back of the saute pan and just pound them into this. So a little bit of those. A mignonette loves salt, takes in a lot of salt. So a nice amount of salt, and then since this is a champagne mignonette, we'll be using champagne and a little bit of champagne vinegar. Now I'm only doing this for Valentine's Day. Normally my mignonettes are made with red wine vinegar. That's usually my favorite, but today as we are celebrating each other, I thought it would be nice to use a little champagne mignonette, and then of course sip the champagne afterwards. Spoon a little bit on. Now you would want to only spoon it on right before you serve. You can have someone shuck oysters for you, set them in the cooler with a damp paper towel right over them so they don't dry out, and then right before you serve them, you'll top them with a mignonette.
See, I told you it was fancy, and it's also really, really good. Now come right back for a recipe just in case you owe money to Uncle Sam. Remember, all of my recipes are available on the SoFlo Show's webpage. Just scan this quick response code. You'll be taken directly to the SoFlo Show's page. Come right back for something frugal.
SoFlo Taste will return right after this.
Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. Do you know why we don't have to get our taxes in this year until Tuesday, April 18th? Well, first, when April 15th falls on a weekend, our government gives us until that Monday to have our returns in. But why Tuesday this year? Well, because Monday is District of Columbia's Emancipation Day, a holiday. So we get a few extra days. My final recipe for my Tasty Tax Tips show is after you're licking your wounds after having paid your taxes and you need to live low on the hog. But trust me, it's still good. From July 2021, here's one of our favorites.
The first thing I wanted to teach you was a delicious chili recipe. Love it on a hot dog. A chili dog is just the best. Thanks to Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market, I am cooking some ground pork and ground beef. So to this, we're gonna go ahead and add a bunch of finely diced or minced yellow onion. I've got some very small diced red pepper, as well as small diced yellow pepper. I just love when those colors just pop. And then finally, let's go ahead and add the spices, which is really what gives the chili its unique flavor. Of course, ground cumin, chili powder, which you can use a spicy one or just the regular one that isn't spicy at all,
A little bit of chopped garlic, just a little bit of cayenne pepper. I really want the kids to like this one, so I don't make it too spicy. And then, of course, a little bit of oregano. All right, so let's go ahead and cook this until all of the spices toast up in there and get really mixed in. And then, of course, you want your onions and your peppers to start to soften. And everything all of a sudden just became so fragrant it like went pow in my face. It's so crazy how that happens all of a sudden. And it doesn't happen the second you put the spices in. It happens when they really start to heat up and start really melding into the flavors. So I added about a teaspoon of salt, and of course you can go from there and add a little bit more if you need to. A couple of bay leaves. And then I decided to go with two different beans. We've got pinto and kidney beans. I like the red beans in my chili. Now these are canned. They were canned beans that I went ahead and drained and I rinsed off just a little bit. And you really want to mix them in really well before adding the liquid. All right, so for the liquid, we've got a large can of chopped tomatoes with their juice. I've got some enchilada sauce. What I love about enchilada sauce, it's not so much about the flavor, it's about the consistency, the texture of it. Look how nice and thick it is. It really helps bring together the chili and give it a better consistency. And then finally, I do feel like this needs just a little either water or broth. You can add beef broth, chicken broth, or like I said, a little bit of water. Just a little bit for everything to kind of stew together. And then finally, I feel like this needs just a little bit of hot sauce, so grab your favorite, just a little bit of that. So you're gonna wanna bring this up to a boil, reduce it down to a simmer, cover it, and let it go. If you can, like I did, I put it on like a number 2, and I left it overnight while I slept. The chili really came together. I mean, the longer, the better. If you have a slow cooker, obviously you can do that, but there's nothing wrong with leaving this on the lowest setting in your home stove. Like I said, don't let it bubble. It really wants to be on the lowest setting, and it just cooks beautifully. All right, chili's ready. No, of course I didn't cook it here. I cooked it at home all night long. And then I am cooking 2 Hebrew National hot dogs, just good old simple hot dogs, and I am cooking them in some nice hot water. Don't let them boil. Just let them kind of, I guess you could say steam, but they're kind of poaching. Anyway, warm them up in some hot water. Let's go ahead and take them out. I've decided to use just really plain simple buns for my chili dog. Let's go ahead and fill these up. And then I am going to top these with some chili, which is good and hot. I just warmed it up, and look how beautiful the chili came out. It's just gorgeous. You can still see all the beautiful colors, but everything is just cooked for so long, it all kind of melts together. Just yummy. All right, let's go ahead and top these dogs with chili. Delish. And then I've got some shredded cheddar for over the top. Let's pop those in the oven real quick. I always make pickled jalapenos. If you watch the show a lot, I'm always making pickled jalapenos for my husband, David. So I make them with carrots. The recipe for this, and of course, all of my recipes are always at SoFloTaste.com. And so because I made the chili a little, let's say neutral, not so spicy, I've decided to serve it with my beautiful pickled jalapenos. Oh, this is so pretty. Look how gorgeous that is. I'm so excited. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, like I told you, I'm gonna top them with some pickled jalapenos, which, by the way, you could use on all of your hot dogs. I did a Mexican version one year, and I think I did the pickled jalapenos on them. Maybe a couple carrots for fun. The carrots cook in the vinegar mixture first so that they soften a little bit. Oh, yummy. I'm not going to keep these too far away because they'll probably go with pretty much every recipe we're doing today. So what a great start to our hot dog day.
Who doesn't love a hot dog? And who wouldn't love that hot dog? Come right back. Back to SoFlo Taste right after this. I really love the time we spend together each week. Thanks for looking back at the lighter side of some of my tasty tax tip recipes. Now let's check in with our good friend Elena Capra, host of SoFlo Home Project. Hey Elena, what are you doing next?
Hi, Michelle. Good morning. So today we get expert advice when it comes to building contemporary homes. Coming up on SoFlo Home Project, we talk about all the things you should consider when building modern.
Thank you, ma'am. So Taste Buds, thanks for spending another morning with me. I'll see you next week. Now stay tuned for SoFlo Home Project. Goodbye, mwah, and good taste. Taxes two-step.